Imagine this: grand gates, the buzz of a crowd, the smell of popcorn. It's the late 19th century, a time of wonder, a time of world fairs and grand expositions. People flock to see the latest marvels of science and technology. But among the attractions nestled between displays of machinery and art is something else. Something advertised as a glimpse into the exotic world. Behind wooden fences and inside recreated bamboo huts stand human beings. Men, women, and even children, taken from their homes across Africa, Asia, and the Americas. They are not guests, they are exhibits. This is the forgotten, chilling story of human zoos. It all started in an age obsessed with empire and discovery. As European powers colonized vast territories, they brought back more than just resources. They brought back people. They called these displays ethnological exhibitions, a supposed educational window into primitive cultures. In reality, it was a stage for dehumanization. The first major human zoo opened in Paris in 1877, and the idea spread like wildfire. London, Berlin, Brussels, even New York, all hosted these attractions. Think about the 1889 Paris Exposition, the very same one that gave us the Eiffel Tower. Alongside that symbol of modernity, over 400 African men and women were put on display in a fabricated Negro village. Millions of visitors came to stare, to point, to laugh. The people inside were stripped of their names, their identities, their humanity. They were simply curiosities. In Berlin, a colonial village was built right inside the city's zoo. People from Cameroon and Namibia were forced to perform dances, to live out a caricature of their lives in the wild. Visitors would throw food at them, mocking their languages and customs. For the Western world, this was a weekend spectacle, a family outing. For those behind the fences, it was a prison of public humiliation. One of the most heartbreaking stories is that of Oda Benga, a young man from the Congo. After being displayed at the 1904 St. Louis World's Fair, he was sent to the Bronx Zoo in New York. There, he was placed in the monkey house, sharing a cage with an orangutan. A sign was hung on his enclosure. Crowds jeered and threw peanuts. Newspapers called him an interesting exhibit. While black ministers fought for his freedom and eventually succeeded, the trauma was irreversible. Oda Benga, a man who had been caged like an animal, never recovered. He died by suicide a few years later. His story is just one of thousands. These zoos weren't hidden away. They were celebrated mainstream events, were justified in the name of science and education. Brochures and so-called scientific journals compared Africans to apes, describing them as the missing link. It was a twisted logic used to prop up a false narrative of racial superiority and justify colonial rule. In the same breath that Europe was inventing airplanes and discovering X-rays, it was putting people behind bars to prove a point. By the 1930s, the tide began to turn. The rise of fascism and a growing anti-racist movement forced society to confront its own ugliness. The human zoos were slowly dismantled, the huts were torn down, the cages emptied. But the psychological damage was done. An entire generation had been taught to view other human beings as lesser, as objects of curiosity, rather than as equals. The stereotypes and prejudices born in these enclosures lingered for decades, shaping policies, media, and everyday interactions. Looking at the old photographs is haunting. You see smiling families in their Sunday best, posing for a picture next to a cage, completely oblivious to the profound cruelty they are witnessing. The faces behind the bars are often anonymous, their names lost to history, labeled only by their tribe or as specimens. But they had names. They had families. They had cultures and songs and dreams. They were people whose stories were stolen from them. Today, museums and archives across the world are grappling with this legacy. Some are returning human remains to their ancestral lands. Others are building memorials to acknowledge a past that was ignored for too long. But remembering is only the first step. The real challenge is to understand how such a thing could ever have happened. Human zoos were not an accident. They were a mirror, reflecting the darkest parts of a society that valued power over empathy. They showed what happens when we allow curiosity to curdle into cruelty, And when we forget that every single person, regardless of their background, belongs to the same human family. The bars may be gone, but the act of othering people, of looking down on them, can still exist in subtle ways. The true lesson of the human zoos isn't just about what was done to others. It's about what it revealed, and still reveals, about ourselves. Thank you for watching. If this story moved you, please consider liking this video and subscribing for more stories that challenge us to look at our history in a new light.